The sun had barely risen above the rooftops of Maplewood, a small countryside town where life was simple for most but difficult for some. Clara Hayes, an 18-year-old girl with bright eyes and worn-out shoes, hurried along the cracked pavement of Main Street. Her breath misted in the crisp autumn air as she clutched a small paper bag of bread rolls, the leftovers from her night shift at the bakery. Clara was used to running against time. Every morning she hurried to the local diner, where she worked another shift serving coffee and cleaning tables. From there, she often went straight to the library for a few hours of tutoring younger children. It wasn't that she loved juggling so many jobs. She simply had no choice. Her mother had passed away 2 years earlier, and her father, once a carpenter, had fallen ill and could no longer work. Clara was now the provider for her little brother, Tommy, who dreamed of becoming a teacher one day. Their small home on the edge of town survived only because Clara never allowed herself to rest. That morning, as she neared the intersection by the old clock tower, Clara noticed a figure standing uncertainly at the curb. It was an elderly man, hunched with age, his frail hands gripping a wooden cane. His clothes were clean but simple, his shoes scuffed. The traffic light blinked red, cars rushing past, their honks echoing. The man's lips trembled as though he wanted to step forward but couldn't find the strength. Pedestrians walked by without pausing, some glancing at him, others pretending not to notice. Clara slowed, her chest tightening at the sight. When a passing truck sent a gust of wind that almost toppled him, Clara's heart lurched. Without thinking, she rushed forward. "Sir," she said gently, placing her hand on his arm, "let me help you." The old man blinked in surprise, his watery eyes softening. "Thank you, young lady. Not many stop these days." Clara smiled, guiding him slowly across the street. She walked with care, shielding him from the cars, her own heart thudding with fear that one might speed too close. But they reached the other side safely. The man's smile deepened. "You remind me of a kindness this town once had. It's rare now." Clara shook her head. "It's no trouble. I'm happy to help." With a nod, the man shuffled away, his cane tapping against the pavement. Clara turned to continue her rush to the diner, never realizing her life had just changed forever. 2 days later, Clara stood outside the grand gates of Wallace Farm, the largest landholding in Maplewood. She had heard rumors that they were hiring seasonal workers, and though she had no farming experience, desperation had pushed her there. The farm stretched endlessly, golden fields swaying under the autumn sky. Taking a deep breath, Clara knocked on the farmhouse door. Moments later, it creaked open. Standing before her was none other than the elderly man she had helped across the street. Clara gasped, "It's you, Mr. Wallace?" The old man chuckled softly. "So you do know my name." Clara flushed. Everyone in town knew Henry Wallace, though few had ever seen him up close. He was known to be the wealthiest farmer in the county, his organic produce supplying cities far beyond Maplewood. But Clara had only seen him as a frail old man struggling at a crosswalk. I didn't know," she stammered. "I'm here to ask for work. My brother's school fees. I'll do anything, sir." Henry studied her with thoughtful eyes. "Work, not charity, that I can respect." He motioned for her to enter. "Come in, child. Let me call my son." Inside, the farmhouse smelled of fresh bread and wood polish. Clara perched nervously on a chair until the door opened again. A tall man stepped in. His presence filled the room. Broad-shouldered, with sharp features and a measured gaze, he carried himself with quiet authority. His crisp shirt sleeves were rolled up, hinting at someone used to both business and hard work. "This is my son, Daniel Wallace," Henry said warmly. "Daniel, this is the young lady who helped me the other day." Daniel's eyes flickered with recognition. Clara realized he must have been the man she'd seen watching from the sleek car that morning. "Father," Daniel said evenly, "are you sure?" "She's not here for favors," Henry replied firmly. "She wants to work." Daniel's gaze lingered on Clara, cool and unreadable. Finally, he nodded. "We do need help. Let's see what she can do." And just like that, Clara's new life began. Clara's first days at Wallace Farm were grueling. She weeded gardens, carried baskets heavier than she thought possible, and scrubbed stalls until her hands blistered. But she never complained. Each evening, she returned home tired but proud, handing Tommy a portion of her wages for his books. Daniel often watched her from a distance. At first, his expression was skeptical, as if waiting for her to give up. But as the days turned into weeks, Clara's determination spoke louder than words. One afternoon, as she struggled with a basket of tomatoes, she tripped, scattering them across the soil. Embarrassed, she scrambled to gather them. A shadow fell over her. Daniel crouched beside her, silently helping pick them up. His movements were careful, his hands steady. Then, to her shock, he pulled out a handkerchief and gently wiped dirt from her cheek. Clara's breath caught. "You don't trust people easily, do you?" Daniel's eyes flickered. "I don't trust people who only see wealth. But you've only ever seen my father as a man, not a farmer or a rich man. That's rare." Clara didn't know what to say. She simply nodded, her heart fluttering. That evening, she brewed tea and left a cup quietly beside him on the porch. Daniel looked at her, startled, then softened. "Thank you," he whispered. It was the first crack in the wall between them. As autumn deepened, so did the bond between Clara and Daniel. They began sharing conversations during breaks, about books, about childhood, about loss. Daniel revealed that his mother had died when he was 15, leaving scars he never truly healed. He buried himself in work, becoming known not only as a farmer, but also as a sharp businessman. Wealth became easier than vulnerability, he admitted. Clara, in turn, spoke of her mother's passing, of nights spent at bus stations with Tommy, holding him close against the cold. For the first time, Daniel allowed himself to laugh freely, to share quiet moments without the weight of expectation. Clara, too, felt something she hadn't in years: hope. The farm no longer felt like just a workplace. It felt like a home. But every story has its storm. One rainy afternoon, Clara was tidying the farmhouse attic when she stumbled upon an old magazine. On its cover was Daniel in a tailored suit, standing confidently under the headline, "Daniel Wallace, the young tycoon transforming agriculture." Her heart sank as she read. The man she had shared secrets and laughter with was far wealthier than she had ever imagined. He wasn't just a farmer. He was a powerful CEO. Why hadn't he told her? That evening, she confronted him in the barn. "Why didn't you say who you really are?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Because people change when they know. I wanted something real, Clara, with you." Her voice cracked. "But real means honesty. You hid the truth from me. You didn't trust me." Tears filled her eyes as she turned away. "I can't love someone who doesn't believe in me enough to be honest." And just like that, she left Wallace Farm. The days that followed were hollow. Daniel threw himself into business, but nothing filled the emptiness Clara had left. Every corner of the farm reminded him of her laughter, her quiet strength, her kindness. Henry, wise with age, told his son one evening, "You might own half the land in this county, but without love, you'll always be poor." Meanwhile, Clara returned to her long shifts at the diner, her chest aching whenever she passed the farm road. She told herself she had done the right thing, but her heart whispered otherwise. Part 7. Rain and Redemption. One stormy evening, fate intervened. Daniel walked into the diner, rain dripping from his coat. Clara froze behind the counter. His eyes were tired, his voice raw. "I came to say I'm sorry," he whispered. He placed a small lavender bottle on the counter. "You once said the scent brought you peace. I thought maybe it could remind you of us." Clara's tears welled. "Do you think a bottle of lavender erases lies?" "No," Daniel admitted. "But maybe it tells you I never wanted to hurt you. I was afraid you'd never see me as just a man." Clara shook her head. "I already did. It was you who didn't see yourself that way." She turned, stepping into the storm outside. But Daniel followed, catching her hand in the downpour. "Don't leave again," he pleaded, voice trembling. "You're the only thing that makes this world worth living." Clara looked into his eyes, seeing not wealth, not pride, but raw vulnerability. And in that moment, her heart softened. Weeks later, Clara returned to Wallace Farm, not as a desperate worker, but as someone who had found belonging. Henry welcomed her warmly, Daniel with open honesty. Life on the farm bloomed once again. Clara worked beside Daniel, laughter echoing across the fields. Tommy's school fees were secured, and Henry often remarked how the farm hadn't felt so alive in years. One golden evening, as the sun set behind the fields, Daniel took Clara's hand. "It wasn't your kindness to my father or your hard work in these fields," he said softly. "It's you, Clara. You make everything make sense." Clara smiled, her heart full. "And you finally learned that the richest man isn't the one who owns the most land, but the one who shares his heart." Hand in hand, they stood as the farm glowed under the twilight, not bound by wealth, not bound by secrets, but by love. And so, a simple act of kindness, helping an old man cross the street, changed everything. Clara discovered that wealth isn't measured in money, but in trust, love, and the willingness to see someone beyond what the world calls them. Sometimes, the smallest gesture opens a door to the greatest journey of all.